So maybe let's start with a slightly narrower step and just start by turning, but turning by yielding. So breaking in the hip. So softening this point where the finger is. So I yield. And I want to go all the way so that I bounce back, like bouncing off a trampoline. And then I go this side. So I'm pressing in, and then I bounce back. So as you turn to the right, it tends to bring you into the right foot more. And then when you come back, you're coming out of that foot a little bit. So here I'm going into this foot. And then into this foot. And just let it soften. Yeah, so rather than just going back the way you came, let it just open out a bit so it becomes a loop. So I'm going in like this, and then I sort of loop out to the side a little bit. Because if I yield, something in me expands out. So you're basically making the two loops of the figure of 8. So yield. Yes, as we turn, we're just trying to relax across the back on that side, and then it will naturally expand out. So I yield, I turn, and I naturally return. Yeah, so you just keep turning until you find that natural bounce back. So you've twisted the muscles and the tendons sufficiently for it to want to unravel and bring you back. So just try and be aware that all this is happening within the field of gravity. So all the time we're turning, we're also trying to relax and sink. Not necessarily physically, but just let gravity draw me down into the legs. So yield and attack, yield and attack. So the yield turns me away, sinks me down, moves the hip back, and then the return does all the opposite, brings me up. forwards. And turns me back. So we just want it to feel like a bounce, like we're bounced back. Yeah. So if you're relaxed, and as you reach the end of your turn, you'll already feel the energy going the other way. It's already going this way, and my body slowly catches up. So one, it's already in the same way if you were to sink into the trampoline, you know, before you reach the bottom of your descent, you'd already be thrusting up because the trampoline would be really tight by then. So the same thing here. So I'm sinking in, but the thrust is already pushing me back. Yeah, so we're going slowly so we can feel all the different components slightly out of phase. So I turn this way. Ooh. We just want to make sure that the first part that starts turning is in the hip here. The trouble with going straight into turning is that people tend to start with their shoulders. So they start twisting their shoulders and it never quite gets into the waist. It's always starting in the shoulders. So here we just want to make sure it's here. Ooh. And then just keep it here. So keep everything exactly the same. And now just allow it to become like the first warm-up exercise. Yeah. But it's definitely all from the hips rather than the shoulders. So you don't want any sense that the shoulders are actually starting it or responsible for it. They can twist a bit more because they'll have a bit of momentum. Yeah, so it's like a count of 4 rather than a count of 2. So you're going in, out, in, out, in, out. So it's not this. Yeah, that would be like a count of 2, 1, 2, 1. So it's got a yielding quality in and out, in, and so it's much more like a figure of 8. Now just standing, I just feel these points that we've been yielding with. And feel the dansha. So the dansha is pretty much in line. So the dansha is here. Okay, so just feel this point. We'll just bounce slightly, like you've got like an elastic thread hanging from here inside. It basically passed through your perineum. And there's like a little ball on the end, you're just bouncing it up and down. Okay. And now just pulling yourself down and just pushing yourself up. Yeah, so I'm just letting gravity draw me down by relaxing my legs a little bit. And then here I just push down with the heels. So I'm trying to inject into the ground, but that is pushing me up slowly. Yeah. So this is me just relaxing and just letting myself be drawn down. And then this is me keeping that going, but starting to inject in order to push me up against that. Yeah, so this sinking is happening all the time. And if I want to stay in position, if I want to be still and standing up, then I need to be driving through that with an upward thrust. So this upward thrust is squeezing through that sinking field. So it's like a snake trying to squeeze out of its skin. So the skin is being pulled down and the snake is pushing up this way. So when I'm standing in position, what I'm having to do is actually push down with my feet constantly in order to balance this drag down. So this is the feeling we want. So there is actually, so the snake, so I'm coming out of this skin all the time, even when I'm standing still. So there's this sense of emergence, of sort of coming anew out of this field that's pulling down. So this is what's difficult. So this is what requires the mind to be quiet and present. Yeah. And so we go up and down just to feel the two forces, which we then equilibrate. So the down is just me releasing, letting gravity pull me. And then the up is me squeezing. I think that's the operative word, that's the word that always comes to mind. It's like I squeeze the muscles in order to, like you're squeezing a tube of toothpaste. So you're squeezing to get something that's sort of thick and fluid to actually ooze upwards. Then if we just slow that down and keep it almost still, then we have central equilibrium. So central equilibrium is just the balance of the up and the down. So it's not still, it's just a balance of two movements. So you're being dragged down, so you're having to thrust yourself up. But you're thrusting yourself up by injecting into the ground with your heels. And when you get it right, it actually feels quite difficult. It's really tender and quite emotional. Okay, now let's just try a bit more. So just letting yourself be pulled down and then just pushing up against her. Let yourself be pulled down and then just push with the heel. Yeah, so there's a lot of internal movement being generated, especially by the up, really. Yeah, so there's a passive force, which is, or me being passive, which is gravity, really. Gravity is the active force from outside that I have to become passive to. Yeah. And then there's my active force, which is inside me, which is the up. Yeah? So I'm not really sinking, I'm being sunk. I'm being sunk by gravity. Gravity is operating upon me and I'm just allowing it to. And I'm balancing it with my own internal movement, with something that's coming from me, which is just this thrust upwards. Yeah. So gravity's outside, if you like, dragging down on my skin, and my push up is inside, squeezing this snake upwards out of this skin that's being sloughed down. Okay. And now just feel the down chair. So if you put your thumb in your pubic, in your navel, then, and your fingers underneath, then the middle of the palm basically looks at your down chair. So you want the feeling at this point, the down chair is that's your stable point, and all the rest of you is moving a little bit more than that point, apart from your feet, obviously. Yeah. And so the head's obviously got a lot of potential movement. You know, the arms would if they were stuck out the side, but also the hips. Yeah. Yeah, so when gravity is pulling down and you're pushing up, then there's a hell of a lot of movement going on in the upper body. There's these wriggles and twists and turns and convolutions. And the down chair just gives it some sort of center, just calms it down a bit. Okay, so now let's just draw it in. Just gentle, always start off really gentle, like it's just happening in your mind. And now just out again. Okay, now let's just drop the hands. So we're just trying to get a bit of heat in the hands. And then just place the hands over the downshift. And just apply very gentle pressure in. And that helps the lower back just flatten out a little bit, not to curve so much. So just feel this is like the stable center and just allow your head to just start swaying. Yeah, so we're just trying to make sure that our thrust up from the ground, which is balancing the pull of gravity, gets all the way to the top of the head. So we're wanting the push with our heels to just wriggle its way up. And then the best way to get that is just to let it move. So the flows of energy tend to get stuck in the joints because the joints tend to be tight. So especially here, the sacroiliac accent here. Okay, now just start to become a little bit aware of this point. So the heart, so the lower deep heart, the little hollow in the chest here, just above that sort of cartilage, just above the point where the ribs branch out. That's like the deep heart. So just feel it as actually part of the Downshifts. So my Downshifts is like a big area, like this. Okay, and now let's just that same exercise of just pulling the belly in slightly, but think now in terms of these 2 points, breathing together. Yeah, so this heart is just dipping down into the Downshifts and then coming back up again. Yeah, so as it dips down, the Downshifts is actually pulling up very slightly. That's it, that's it. So just pulling. Yeah, so these 2 points all belong together, they play together. They're part of the same structure. So it's like a whip-like action. Something whips out and then comes back down again. And so this breathing action, the together and apart of these 2 points, actually just whips energy up your spine. Yeah, so this is what you would use to actually really get that energy to come up. So we're using these 2 points to bring the Earth's energy up through the body and distribute it around. So it's like a heaving action. Pull them together. They belong together. You should be able to almost get them to touch. And then they really can separate quite a way. And so it's just flexibility in the spine really that just lends the spine a whip-like quality, which will help you get your energy out. And if you're a performer or a fighter or a doer, then you need a flexible spine. Okay. Now just feel this structure. Yeah, so your Danshan at the bottom being the heavy, earthy part, and this deep heart being the upper, lighter part. Yeah, so again, it's full and empty. So this is the full heavy, this is the light empty. Yeah. So the Danshan, has its lightness. Yeah. Each part is either full or empty, and each part contains both full and empty. So this is my earth center, my center that connects me to the ground and to the world around me, the world of which I'm a part. And it's gravity that actually operates in order to draw this down. So what the earth wants is basically for me to just disappear into the ground. So the earth pulls me down. My response to that is to push upwards. So the energy that comes up from that thrust is what we call earth energy. So that way I can distribute that through my body and into my activities. Yeah, so that's all to do with it all starts with gravity. Okay, now what we want to try and feel now is the mirror of that. So if you think of the earth is like a ball of rock, very heavy compared to what's around it. And it's that heaviness, that compactness that makes gravity and causes everything to want to pull towards it. Okay, now just consider the space around it. It's basically a vacuum, effectively. Yeah? And what that space is trying to do is pull that ball apart. It's trying to distribute the matter evenly through space. So it's entropic, this force from above. Yeah? So as well as gravity pulling me down, there's another force from beyond the planet that's actually drawing me out away from the Earth. So this is what we want to try and feel. And that's much more subtle and much weaker. So it doesn't really operate upon your body. Because the effect of the Earth, the effect of gravity, masks it so much that you can feel it on your energy, on your psyche, on your moods. So it's what in the old days they would have called astrology. Yeah? So the effect of the heavens upon your being. And in the old days it would have been considered just as important as the effect of the Earth. Yeah? So that tends to operate more on the head center. So this center here. And what we've done, Homo sapiens sapiens, in its wisdom, has basically cut off from that by introducing thinking into the mind. So rather than making the mind a light place which is being operated upon by the heavens all the time, it's become a place of personal fantasy, of constant thinking. And we do that largely to cut off from these forces that we feel control us in some sort of way. So when you start to quieten the mind, it's one of the effects of meditation. When you start to just become a little bit quieter inside, you start to feel this draw, this pull from above that's basically operating on the head, or the contents of the head, if you like, the psyche, the energy, the spirit especially. So you've got a heavy ball here pulling you down, and then there's a lightness here that's drawing upwards. And then this point here, the thymus, the upper chest, the sternum, is just the bottom of this. Yeah? So this is the heavy part of the right head. And then this point in the middle of the brain is the light part of the right head. So this is pulling me down, this is drawing me up. So you've got the sternum, the upper heart, which belongs to this center. You've got the deep heart, the lower heart, which belongs to this center. So heaven and earth are actually brought together and united inside the body, inside the heart, inside the human heart. Yeah, so in the same way that when I let gravity pull me down, there's a thrust up through my body. In the same way here, if I let the sky or the heavens pull me up, then there's an energy that casts down. It's also like this very fine drizzle. It's just gently dropping. And both of these relationships, our relationship with the ground and our relationship with the heavens, are very personal. So it's quite easy for us to cut off from them and do damage. So if we can just really soften and just open up, then these things will start operating upon us. Okay, so now let's just try. So we've set the scene, if you like. And now we'll just do some movements, yeah? So now we're just moving very tentatively, very tenderly within that space that we've opened up. So the earth pulling and the heavens drawing. So just feel it like you're inside a thick fluid, a thick liquid. So we want to feel the air as though it's water. That's great. So the feeling is that like these movements, they're not really coming from you. It's almost like they're being done to you.
So in Tai Chi, we just want all our movements to be an expression of our equilibrium. So it's what I call active passivity. So I'm just bringing a tiny little bit of activity in to make this equilibrium a little bit visible. So it's like the opposite of passive activity would be like habitual action. Action that you're sort of unmindful of. And active passivity is me just sort of giving a little bit of expression to this beautiful balance. And just trying to feel the spirit leading. Yeah? So what is it that actually makes this movement happen? Yeah, so that the arms should be so relaxed, it's almost like it's not you that's moving them, they're being moved. So I just have to keep my mind present. Yes, I'm just trying to feel each millimeter of movement. So it's like tender and tentative. The movement's not quite sure if it's allowed, yeah? So it's always ready to stop. Right, so it's like what moves your arms is not the arms, it's something really deep inside. It's certainly not the mind. It's like there's some strange life inside your belly. Okay. And now just out here again. Yes, it's like bathing yourself in energy. Okay, now here just feel. Yeah. So gravity is pulling me down. But if because of the way the legs are, so this part of the leg from the knee to the hip is actually inclined forwards. Yeah? So if I stand this way, then you see like I've got an angle here, an angle with the ground. So my sinking actually takes me forwards as well as down. Yeah? So it's not sinking like this, it's sinking like this into the knees, if you like. So that's what we call bum in. So that's the bum being in. Now, What's tricky about all these things is that we want the feeling that it's being done to us rather than we being responsible for it. Yeah, so when the teacher says get your bum in, the last thing he really wants is for you to do this. Yeah? You've just got to relax and let gravity pull you down into these legs that are willing to accept you. And then this will just naturally fall forwards into the right place. Yeah? Or the way they, in a lot of traditions, you'll actually just feel as though someone else is doing it for you. Someone else's hands are on my back and they're just gently helping me, giving me a bit of courage to sort of just get down into my legs. So the down chain is actually cutting under and forwards all the time. It's like doing this. Yeah? And that just comes from your sacrum moving slightly forwards as it goes down. So that lends you a very engaged relationship with the space in front. Because you're uprooting, you're undermining, you're cutting under and getting energy to rise up. So sink and relax and bum in. It basically just turns you into like a digger. You're cutting under everything all the time. Okay, now let's just try now. So the principle we haven't looked at yet is just single weighted. In a way, it's the most important one. Because without it, there's no full and empty. And without full and empty, there's no real differentiation. So just a weight in one foot. And just feel that clear demarcation between the full side and the empty side. So I'm sinking and relaxing, but just into one leg. And so it's actually quite difficult, because it's just one leg taking all the weight. So now just reach across with the foot and just transfer that weight into this foot and bring this foot up. So just relax all around here. Get down into the one leg. And then this side is just free. And then again, so down one leg, which then enables the other one to lift up. And then down into here. So all down this side is going down, and all up this side is coming up. So there's a circuit. There's a circulation. And then down and up. Now the circulation has just changed. One. So in order to move from one leg to the other, I have to bring the weight up one leg and then down into the other. Up, down, and then that will enable the other side to empty. And so fullness enables emptiness. It's not the other way around. So the emptiness comes from the fullness. The lightness from the heaviness. So just feel this outside edge of the foot. So that's where the weight is going down. So the outside edge of your foot is cutting under. Yeah, so they say, Tai Chi is marrying, squaring the circle or circling the square. So marrying straight lines and curves. So the curve comes when you bend a limb, and the straight comes when you straighten it. So the more I bend this supporting leg, then the more circular the circuit becomes. And the more I straighten it, the more like a sort of long oval it becomes. And we're just trying, in a sense, strengthening the body and the legs is just about becoming more squat, becoming deeper. Feel the Danshan in the middle. Feel the heart trying to pull down into the Danshan. But feel this, the sternum pulling up. Yeah, so we really have to just feel the heart as this composite of a part that belongs to the belly and a part that belongs to the head, and just allow it to separate. What we tend to do is drop the sternum, and then that smothers the lower heart, and that leads to depression. So when your sternum is proud and strong, what's interesting about it is that it actually exposes the lower heart, and you're actually very vulnerable at that point of thinking you're invincible, which of course every martial artist knows. Yeah. At that point of letting your energy out, you're really vulnerable. So this is pulling down into the Danshan, this is lifting up. So the heart is being stretched like this. Yeah. Okay, right. And now let's just try just rubbing the hands again. So we're just going to put the hands on the sternum. First of all, just get them a bit warm. And then just place the hands on the upper chest, on the bone. Yeah, so the sternum protrudes slightly, so you just get that protrusion in the middle of the palms. And now just turn the head gently. Yeah, so we're just trying to sort of just get a bit of movement underneath the hands, underneath the sternum. So another way to get movement is to sing. So you'll really feel it vibrating your sternum. Or hum, just like humming, like that sort of hum. And now just bring the hands out. So one out here, one out here. Okay, now just have one hand facing down and one hand facing up. And then just reverse them. And just feel the energy moving down into the hand that's facing up. So we're just getting a ripple to flow down the arms and through the chest, through that point in the chest. So remember, that point is behind the sternum. It's not the sternum, it's behind it. So there's like a cavity in the upper chest. And we're just trying to get movement inside it. So I'm just rippling, there's a flow, which happens simply by just turning one hand over and the other one down. Right. And now just bringing the hands up. So here, this is what I call the chimney. So just feeling the head rising, the head suspended, and the sacrum dropping, the tail dropping down. So this stretch in the spine. And now just looking up. And then just looking down. So feel here the neck, the back of the neck is really stretching. The throat is constricted. And then here, the neck constricts and the throat stretches. So this is sending energy down your spine and up your front. So here the sternum is really directed upwards. And then here, you're really drawing energy up your spine. So you have to really work to keep the sacrum down. And one more, just looking up. And then just looking down. And then the hands down to here. Okay, now let's just rub the hands again. And then we'll just do this point there. And now the hands over the eyes. So you're trying to block out all the light. And so your eyeballs are being soothed by the warmth from your palms, but you're actually focusing on the point in the middle of the brain. So that should be completely empty of anything that you have put there. Yeah, so that it can fill with something else. Yeah, so you're relaxing and softening the front of the brain. So it stops being active, it stops being tense. So it feels a bit like an inner smile, like you're smiling. And then just bring your hands out to the side. Yeah, and just, it's like you're directing something upwards with your hands, like a light. Imagine your head flaming with this brilliant light, this radiant light, and it's shining upwards. And then just extend that into like this sort of, so try and make your arms sort of similar to your legs. So your legs are in a deep riding horse. And your arms are in a similar shape above your head. And so in the same way that this shape with my legs beckons the ground to come up into me, the same here, this beckons the heavens to come down into me. So I'm collecting energy from the ground into the Downshifts, from the heavens into the head, and then those two energies meet in my heart. So the heart is really complicated. There's a lot there. It's got a lot to do. It's quite a big task. So I think I read somewhere recently about all the light pollution, and the fact that we don't see the stars anymore. Because at one time there was a firmament, there was a whole covering. There was just this infinite array of stars. And because of all the light pollution from the cities, it's just very dim now. We may see the odd one or two. And so we've lost any sense of something above us that's actually operating upon us. Yeah, so it's a bit like gravity. I mean, gravity is always there, and it's always operating upon us. Yeah, but if we open up to it and wake up to it in a certain way, then that relationship becomes quite special and very personal and much, much stronger through our awareness. And it's exactly the same here. I mean, the heavens are always operating upon us, but until we become really aware of that, it doesn't become anything that we can actually use in our sort of our own development. So if you're really poised, if you're really balanced, then you'll shake. Yeah, that's it. Well done, me. As long as you don't vomit. And so, so that trembling edge is really tender and difficult, but that's what we're looking for all the time. And especially, when we work like this, where we're bringing two tremendous forces together within our own fragile body, it becomes really fraught. But it's the only way to get really stronger, spiritually stronger. Yeah, so the energy that's coming up me from my pushing up from the ground passes into this lift, and the energy that comes down into me from the heavens, I can bring down into my sinking. So you're never quite sure whether that up is actually from the draw or from your own legs, and whether that down is from gravity pulling you or the heavens driving you. So it gets into sort of you're not sure of anything anymore. Okay, and now let's just bring it back to here. So just feel that point. Yeah, so this center is actually difficult, because it requires us to quieten the mind. And that's a really big task. But once it becomes quiet, then you just start to feel it being operated upon in the same way that gravity is operating upon this. And then that becomes really interesting. And so when you find yourself thinking to yourself, it feels like dirty. It feels like, why have I done this? Why have I defiled myself with my own masturbation? So just keeping this clear and just allowing that draw upwards is what we're trying to do. And then just see where it goes. What's the next stage? It's always unimaginable. Wow. And now just bring the hands down to here. And this should really feel like coming home, like a sort of, you're earthing yourself. Oh, it's like a relief to get back to your down chair after working on this. But I guess in time it slowly reverses so that this is home. That's where you're going. So it's like, they say spiritual work is just preparing to die. So we're just separating yin and yang all the time, so that when we do die, they can just go their own separate ways. Okay.